And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of GMAC Club's famous, now annual MBA Spotlight and Fair. For those of you wondering why I am still doing these videos, it's because we're kind of desperate. I'm not going to lie. Joining you for this lovely chat around MBA recruiting is yours truly. My name is Evan, also known by my form name, Nightblade354. And today we're joined by 4 guests, all of whom bring so much more experience than I do. Frankly, I'm shocked they even allowed me to do this, given the importance of this session. But joining me today to talk about this lovely subject is Gina from the great school of McCombs, Marina, who's joining us from Berkeley, Marie, who is joining us from Stanford, and last but certainly not least, Andrew, who's joining us from UVA Darden. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for joining us here today. If we want to get a little bit, I guess, acquainted, shall we, before we dive into some questions and you all hate me, why don't we get a quick intro from all 4 of you. Gina, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. I just graduated from McCombs in May, joined in 2019. I'm originally from California. My background is in biotech, and while at McCombs, I recruited for consulting. Was at BCG last summer, and I'll be joining them full-time in August.
That sounds super exciting. And as a biotech investor, I have to say, I want to pick your brain after this. I need my next investment. Marina, how about yourself?
Hello, I'm also graduating from Berkeley Haas now, like last month. I'm originally from Brazil, and I used to work in consulting prior to Haas. During Haas, I did my internship in tech at DocuSign, and now I'm going back to Bain in California in consulting.
Very nice. Marie, how about you, buddy? Another California human being. Supposedly.
Yeah, at the moment in California. My name is Omri. I'm originally from Israel. My background is in finance and VC before coming in an MBA. I just completed my first year and started my internship at SoFi in product management. And then we'll come back to school in September.
Very nice. Won't hold it against you that you're in California or that you're Canadian. And last but not least, Andrew.
I am another California guy, actually. I'm from Southern California. Just finished my first year at Darden, and currently I am at Ford in their marketing leadership development program. My background was in finance, so I'm a career switcher.
Very nice. Man, so many people in California. It's almost as if that state represents a large fraction of the United States population somehow, or that they have just all these great schools. Either way. With that said, thank you to our panel for joining us and for those quick backgrounds. You all seem to have really interesting stuff going on. Before I move on, am I coming in clear enough? Because we can pull me and send in a different starter. I'm getting thumbs up. All right, so we're going with Evan. For those of you who are watching, we had technical difficulties last time I did this. They pulled me off the mound. They said, you know what, you found your stuff today. They're going to give me a shot, though. They've given me the spider tack that you put on your hands. You can whip the ball 110 miles an hour and have that curveball go 12-6. We're going to try it. We're going to see if I have this stuff going. So my first question, and this will be answered hopefully by all 4 of you. Can you describe to me in one word, maybe 2 or 3 if you need to, what your MBA recruiting process was like? So Andrew, we went with you last. Let's hear from you first. I want to be inclusive here. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance.
Yeah, Evan, you came in a bit choppy there. Can you repeat the question, please?
Dang it! You told me I was good. Describe your recruiting process in one word, please.
Adventurous. So I would say you come into business school and everyone starts recruiting in investment banking or consulting because those are the first 2 industries to go. And as someone who didn't want to do those, I got swept up in that a little bit. Had to be taught to stay away. you see all these smart people going after these smart industries, and it's tough to kind of stay away from that. So definitely wish I had been more focused. I would have saved myself a lot of time.
Adventurous is good. I see the spark in your eyes, that little sparkle. Not sparks. Sparks are bad. You don't want sparks. Not this close to the 4th of July, at least. Omri, how about yourself? One word for your experience.
Sorry. I would say very busy.
Busy.
My recruitment process was a bit different. Yeah, like my recruitment process was pretty late because I skipped all the first like phase of large tech and consulting and investment banking. So it was all concentrated in like 1 month, 2 months during February and March, and I kind of agree with Andrew that focus is very important. So I really focused on fintech specifically and product management and just with a lot of people. So it was very busy.
Very nice. Marina, one word.
For me, I think the word is intense. It was it was busy, as Omri said, like a very intense period of learning how to interview here in the US. As like international student, for me, everything was new. So learning how to adjust, how to present myself in the US type of interview. It was an intense process, but in the end, it all works out. So I'm happy I've been through it.
Very nice. My goodness. Adventurous, busy, intense. I don't want to come off as negative here, but I mean, the point is not to scare these people. The point is to try and encourage them. Gina, you look like you're kind. You look like you're going to come off with a better word than the ones we've heard here thus far. So what about you? What's the one word you would use to describe your process?
So I guess it's not as much of a description, but networking was really important for me. So my one word is networking. I am one of those people that followed kind of the stereotypical path going through consulting recruiting, and coming from a non-traditional background as a career switcher, networking was huge for me. It was brand new to me. And so I used a lot of the resources within my school to be able to do that. But that, I think, was the key to my recruiting process. And it can be a scary word, but hopefully not that scary.
Fair enough. And actually, Gina, would you say that McCombs helped you significantly in this area?
Yeah, I think a combination of both the student clubs that help you with recruiting, as well as career services and just kind of the opportunities that the program office has, really helped me learn how to network properly for the career I was going for.
That's awesome. Well, panel, so you've scared me, you've scared some of our guests, all 47 of them. Maybe a few left when they heard some of the words being thrown around. Who knows? I won't blame you. I'll blame Andrew. So now we're going to transition to your experience and the process that you went through in the recruiting process. So it doesn't have to be all of you, but do all 4 of you want to share your experience with the recruiting process, or do only a couple of you? Quick show of hands. All right, Andrew and Gina, that's fine. And Omri, sorry about that, but your hand was sort of out here, not over here. There we go. I need to see the hand legally. Just for our legal department, compliance, whole 9 yards, so tease. So you know what, Omri, you haven't gone first at all yet, buddy, so I want to hear from you. So tell us about your recruiting process.
Sure, happy to. So it's for the summer internship, and like Gina mentioned, like it has a lot of networking aspect to it, especially when it's unstructured. So it's not like you can drop your resume in like the career center. Usually, it's not the case. You really need to reach out to people proactively, talk through what they're doing and how you can create value to them, or like a pitch. It's like, why do you need to recruit me kind of conversation. And that was completely new to me. As Marina mentioned, as an international student, it's like a very different way that what at least I was used to. So I worked a lot with classmates to practice those kind of conversation. And also the Career Center in the Stanford GSB was super helpful. And yeah, then you keep trying and talking to people. Sometimes you make progress. Sometimes it's like just another conversation, and it's great to know new people. And yeah, and you know, some of the conversations made progress, and eventually I got an offer for this summer.
Good to know. Marie, if you don't mind me following up, how did you know where to use Gina's word, network, to make sure you were interviewing with the right places to get the internship that you wanted?
Great question. I think like the easiest way to the network to start with, at least, was to talk to classmates. Some of them did what I was looking for. So it was great to pick their brain and understand if who's the right person to talk and stuff like that. The second circle would be GSB alums. That it's not, I would say easy, but they're very reachable, and they're very likely to answer, to respond to you. And I looked for leaders at fintech companies and startups. So I just mapped those using the Career Center and friends, and then had like a list and reach out to people.
Very nice. Gina, I feel bad. I'm gonna go with Andrew first. I think his hand went up first, and then I promise I'll get to you. I'm sorry I'm doing you last again. Andrew, how about you? What was your process like, Mr. Adventurous?
Yeah, I'd say there were four main phases. So the first one was figuring out what I wanted. And that took a while, and it involved talking to alums, the Career Center, and then professors, which I didn't expect. Professors got really hands-on in guiding what it was they thought I should do. They each had their own opinion, obviously, but that was super helpful. And they connected me with a lot of alumnus as well, who had been through their classroom, which was awesome. The second one, like Omri mentioned, was getting down that elevator pitch. So that elevator pitch is really tough. You've got like 30 seconds to a minute to spark interest on the other side of the line. And that's really crucial. So the Career Center helped me do that well. And then the last one after that networking was actually recruiting and prepping for interviews, which happened around December and over break, when they really help you with the case studies and the behaviorals that you're going to need to interview in January. So that was kind of my process. I didn't know what marketing was coming into Darden, and just learning what it was sparked an interest in me. And that's how I ended up where I am.
So it sounds like your school helped you as well, a significant amount, just like Gina's did. 30 seconds to a minute. My God, that sounds worse than dating. Oof, it's speed dating. Who wants to do that? Mm-hmm. But you know what? You found your mate. You found your soulmate. That's all that's about, man. Right in the heart, where you can stuff all that money. Gina, now to you. Tell us about your experience, the one who didn't try and scare off half our audience.
Yeah, so I think one benefit to consulting, as a couple others mentioned, is it's very established. That whole recruiting process is set up within all of these schools, and you basically get on campus during orientation, and they are already pushing you in a certain direction. So as far as first contact with the companies that you're interested in, all of them come to campus. There's info sessions that you can go to, and then usually networking events afterwards, where you get to start those conversations with the practitioners at the companies you're interested in. So it's really well established, but then comes the part where you have to have your elevator pitch down. You have to set up coffee chats with those people. You have to have phone calls. You have to be, you can't be afraid to reach out to people at the companies you're interested in and make it known that you're interested. Along with that, you're also doing case interview prep, and that is a very arduous process. I think all of the schools also have consulting clubs, which really help with that interview prep process, as well as the Career Center that helps as well. So it's very well established, but you do have to take steps on your own in order to make those connections and have those bonds before you actually interview and do that resume drop and application drop in November, December, and start interviewing in January.
All right, so I'm reading the room, and I read at about a 7th grade level, so bear with me on that. If I'm reading the room correctly, it sounds like This is not just handed to you on a silver platter. You have to work for it. You get out what you put into it. Does that sound fair? All right, I'm seeing a lot of heads going up and down.
Yeah, it
Marina,
does for
I do want to
sure.
hear from you.
But
We are
yeah.
doing well on time.
Yeah, no,
Um,
just like to add, like one thing that like I think all of them kind of comment, like the school helps a lot. So you're not alone in this process, not at all. There's a lot of people, like there's the students who are also going through this process with you. Like there's like the second years who are trying to help you because they are applying for full-time roles and they did this process a year before, so they are there to help you. All schools have like a career center that help us to find the roles that we want, to understand what roles we want, and also like how to apply, how to be prepared. So we have a lot of support. So it's scary, but it's also like a good and a fun process.
I'm seeing a lot of heads going up and down. Did anybody want to talk about the support they received from their university? Gina, you talked about it a little bit, Andrew a little bit. Did anybody want to go into greater detail around that? No? Sure, Gina.
Yeah, so the university itself has career services, and we actually got 8 hours of free coaching from industry or communications coaches. So they helped us do basically fake interview prep. So they'd help us with our behaviorals, they'd help us get our elevator pitch down, and they would also help us think through our career path. So we'd get to talk to people that used to be in whatever career we were interested in and chat with them about what our career path would look like. And then just because consulting is my world, the consulting club is run fully by second year students. And I actually did that my last year and was able to do, I think I led around 50 mock interviews for our first year students that were applying for consulting.
Wow.
And when I was a first year, I did about 30 with the second years in order to prep. So there's tons of support. You do have to do a lot on your own, but you have people guiding you along the way and you just have to take those steps.
That's fantastic to know. And I think you shed a lot of good light on that process and the support network, and gave a nice shout out to UTA. Where's my camera? There you go. The Longhorns. So Gina, you've now done this twice. So you experienced last year and this year. Who else in this chat has experienced this process last year and this year? So who's gone through it 2 times? Anybody else? Andrew, Marina, Omri, or is Gina the only one? Oh, Gina, then this question applies just to you. How fun is that? You kept going last, and now you just get all these questions. What was your experience like between last year, which was around this time, height of COVID, at least hysteria, versus this year where everybody's vaccinated and things are opened up a little bit more and people can actually see you face to face?
Yeah, so I actually recruited back before COVID. I did fully in person, and then COVID hit, and then I had a virtual internship over the summer. I actually got a full-time offer afterwards. Okay, well, I got a full-time offer.
Talk about that later.
Perfect. I got a full-time offer afterwards, but I did help the first year's recruit. So their process was fully virtual, which was a very different experience. But they had to do all of the things that we did in a virtual environment, but we were able to help them as second years prepare for that virtual interview process because we did all of our practice cases virtually. So I think we were able to help them prepare for that a little bit. I heard from them how their recruiting went, but I don't have personal experience in the virtual recruiting environment.
Would you say it's a benefit to do it virtually, or would you believe, sorry, I keep pulling you back in here. Or do you believe that the in-person is definitely more of a benefit to MBA students and aspirants?
I think as far as the larger gatherings in person is definitely beneficial, but one-on-one networking is, I think you do kind of get a boost from virtual because you can network with more people than can physically come to your campus. But as far as large events, it's a lot harder to pull somebody to the side and have a conversation with them one-on-one when you're in a big group. So there's good things and bad things about both.
Wonderful. So my next question, again, coming right back to you because you already mentioned it. how was your online internship? What were the pros and cons of it? Because that seems kind of interesting, being able to step into a new company. You're an MBA student, you're hoping to, I guess, cut your teeth, so to speak, and in reality, you were trying to do it over a computer screen. What was that like?
Yeah, I'm sure Marina can add to this as well, but I'm happy to talk about mine.
I want to hear from all of you, by the way.
Yeah, I can start this one. So it was a quick process going from do we even have an internship to is it online? And it was decided that it would be fully online. It was nice to be pushed into a group. I think they knew there was a lot of stress going into it from our end, and they had this very well established internship process that they had to kind of throw away and build something really quickly that was brand new. There were I think a lot of the negatives where you didn't get to know your co-interns very well. You really only got to know the people that were on your case with you. But one of the positives that came from it was we had established connections with partners and people higher in the office that you wouldn't normally have during the summer, where we got to have one-on-one time with them. And they called it a summer passport program just because they knew we wouldn't get time to see them in the office or anything like that. So we got to have one-on-one conversations with people we might not have been able to talk to otherwise. So I thought that was a beneficial piece. And we got to talk to people from different offices more than we might have otherwise. But I think a lot of people are going back in person for this summer's internship for BCG. So hopefully it's more of a normal experience for them.
Very nice. Marina, you were volunteered by Gina. Let's hear about your online internship. And by the way, Andrew and Omri, I want to hear from you guys too if you want to speak up for this section. Marina, please tell us about your time.
Yeah, it was pretty great, I think. Like the company was very prepared to receive a bunch of interns during the summer remote. So as Jenna mentioned, like they did a lot of like trying to group us together. So we had like a Slack channel for interns. We have like a bunch of events for interns, everything online, but still it was good. I feel like the point that I missed the most having a fully online internship was the social gathering, because like socialize virtually is not the same. Zoom is not the same as a bar. So this is not like perfect. And I think everyone feels it, not only like interns. But the positive side was the connection. So when I was working, if I were in person, I would probably work in a local project. As I was working remote, I had like two projects. One was local, one was like global. Actually, like I was working with other region, and I had a bunch of meetings with people from other country. I was easily able to interact with people from other offices at DocuSign, like Chicago, South America, people from Europe. So I feel like this openness to have a chat with people from far places, it was due to remote environment. So everyone was at home, everyone had like Zoom connection. So why not? Like it's the same to spend 30 minutes with me and to spend 30 minutes with someone who is close to them. So this was like a huge plus. I was able to create a lot more connections than I expected. But yeah, I miss the social gatherings and like having someone by your side to see when your face is like lost, like, oh, I'm lost, I don't know where to start. So during the internship, I felt like I had to be a lot proactive when I had like some doubts. So I need to tell them that I missed something, that I needed help. If I just stayed by myself, I wouldn't like take advantage of everything that DocuSign had to offer. And my experience was amazing. So I think like I didn't miss much, but of course I prefer not to have COVID. So
So it sounds like you had, like you said, a positive time. You had a fun time. This definitely was, I don't want to say COVID was good. I mean, that's how you end up on CNN, but I'm going to say that this was semi-beneficial for you. So that's awesome to hear. By the way, to our audience, Andrew, I'm coming to you next because you've been quiet for a little bit. I want to get you involved. To our audience, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. We're coming up on our last few questions, at least the ones that I wrote down. So if you feel that you want to ask the panel something or somebody specifically on the panel something, put it in the chat and we'll make sure to call it out before our session is over. With that said, let's transition back to that question. Andrew, your first internship, was yours online as well?
Yeah, so I'm fully virtual and I'm at Ford, which is a huge company. And that networking that we had to do to get the offer only amplifies once you're in the company. So I think it was really good practice to have to go through recruiting in a virtual way, because what determines whether you get the offer or not, as much as your work product, is the connections that you make. And those connections are differently made when you're in an online world. And I'm really glad that I went from making those online and then continuing to make them online rather than making them in person and switching to online. So I think that's been one positive. And what I'm hearing for next year is it's going to be a mix of recruiting as well. And there's some people that really like the in-person better. They feel like it makes them shine. And some people like that online better. It's just different personalities, I think, that succeed at both. And the key is knowing which one of those two you are.
And what are you? Do you prefer the virtual, or do you prefer in-person, face-to-face, see the lights in their eyes as you inspire them?
I much prefer the in-person. I think it's much easier to pull someone aside. Yeah, pull someone aside at a restaurant, grab a quick drink, something like that, and you can enter and exit the conversation much better in person. So I like that better myself.
Sounds good. Sounds like you know yourself quite well. I respect that. Omri, you've been quiet the longest, so let's hear from you.
Sure. I mean, I'm currently virtual, but hope back to the office, at least in hybrid mode, later this summer. I'm more of an in-person. I prefer that. It's hard to concentrate and, be in like most productivity mode when you're looking at the screen all day. But I mean, in terms of like the recruiting process, virtual had a lot of pros, because I could fit in a lot of conversations, and people are much more, open to meet people on Zoom. You don't need to fly somewhere, other place in the US, or drive up to other places. So I think it made it easier to fit in more conversations. I found it very useful.
Interesting to hear. Now, did any of you, this is sort of an open question for the group, did any of you feel that doing virtual hindered or impacted your job prospects in any way versus the in-person? Or do you feel that it may have benefited you in any way? I'm getting a thumbs up. I saw Gina saying no, so no impact. Marina, you gave a thumbs up. What was that in relation to in terms of my question?
I think like it was a positive impact in the sense that I could apply to more companies. Like I didn't apply to many, but like I could spend more time getting to know the company before I applied. Because every time that you have to do like a coffee chat in person, you have to go somewhere. It's like a short travel, and you kind of like missed the afternoon. Like you use the whole afternoon to have one or two coffee chats. At Zoom, I could have like 4 in an afternoon, and it was fine. So I felt like the process was more effective. I could do more with the same time. This was a positive.
So no hindrance on the job prospects. Andrew, Omri, did either of you feel any different, or do you agree with Gina and Marina that this was sort of a meh, didn't really impact anything, at least on the negative side?
I think your expectations, you're expected to have more conversations because you can in Zoom, and everyone's kind of on 24/7. So it forces you to cast maybe a wider net than you otherwise would have, and have more conversations at these places, which helps in the interview process because you know people and can name drop and talk more specifically. So that's a real positive. The negative is it just takes more time.
Good to know. To our audience, keep in mind, good, Shvik's chiming in here. Shivik, so I was wondering who posted the GPA question, because that was actually the first question that I could post here. To our audience, the 4 panelists are sitting here are not consultants, they're students. And to ask questions around your profile, to ask them about how to do certain things or the viewpoint, it does sort of a disservice to this YouTube video. The point is to have these panelists talk about their recruiting experience and to tease out enough information to help you in that process. Shivik, thank you for posting these 2 great questions. I'm going to ask them right now. For those of you who do not know Shivik, he's actually behind the scenes right now. He was onboarding case. I dropped off for whatever reason. He was my replacement. He is a Ross alum, and frankly, he's a fantastic GMAT Club alumni as well, who worked on the admin board with myself. These are the type of questions that we're looking for, and the guy is showing why he is an absolute legend. With that said, let's dive into this first question, which is, did your classes or GPA matter at all for recruiting? Did you pick different classes based on your recruiting goals? Who would like to take that question, or would all 4 of you like to? Okay, I'm calling on somebody. Andrew, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so at Darden, we have a core curriculum. So your first 3 quarters are pre-mandated what you're going to take, and you have to hone in pretty early on where you want to recruit. So the classes helped me kind of to navigate. I loved my marketing class. I went more towards marketing as a result, but I couldn't choose classes based on what I enjoyed and what I didn't. I will say for second year, where I have my internship has dictated where I take classes second year, but when you're starting off first year recruiting, you've got to kind of know as soon as classes start where you're targeting.
Very nice. Good caller. Maria, it looks like you're shifting. Do you want to answer this as well?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Andrew, I don't think it makes a lot of difference, at least not for the non-traditional recruiting process. And also there's a non-disclosure at Stanford at least, so you can't really tell your grades or share your grades. And not a lot of classes that you can take from the first quarter that can make a difference. You'll take marketing anyways and accounting or whatever. So I don't think, for me at least, it was making any difference.
All right. Marina or Gina, did either of you feel, or do either of you feel differently? Marina, please.
I wouldn't say like differently, but I had the opportunity to take some classes like in advance before like my summer, and I did take a product management class, which was like an amazing class. I loved it, but during that class, I realized, okay, PM is not for me. I don't think I would love to do this for the whole 3 months, my summer. So yeah, like I had the opportunity to take electives in my second semester. And if you don't have the opportunity to do it before your summer, you will have like throughout your second year. And I did take several different classes to explore, because maybe in the future, I'll want to switch careers again. Who knows? So I just took advantage of everything that I had offered for me at Haas. Related to the GPA question, at Haas, similar to Stanford, like we have a non-disclosure policy. So like you cannot say your GPA to recruiters, even if they ask. So it doesn't really make a difference. I think it makes more difference for you, like how much you care about it, how much effort you want to put on it, but it really shouldn't impact your recruiting unless you don't graduate.
I understand. Thank you for that clarification. Gina, did you want to add on to anything, or I can save you for the next question if you like?
I'm happy to just add on as a school that doesn't do non-disclosure, so you can disclose grades, but they're not actually released by the time you start recruiting for consulting. So they didn't matter at all for me because we don't have grades yet.
Oh, how convenient. I mean, not if you're a good student, but still. And by the way, just to give a little more color around Shavik, he has a job in tech, so these questions are not meant for his benefit. These questions are meant for our users who eventually will see this video. So once more, Shavik, thank you for doing this. I'm going to skip over questions and actually go to one of our users who asks an interesting question, which is, and I quote, "Are any of you introverts? If so, how did you make the adjustment to having these conversations? And how did you keep them from becoming transactional?" I actually, I like to ask people before we hop into these videos how comfortable they are on camera and if I should direct attention away from them towards them. And I didn't get to ask that this time. So I don't know. Are any of you introverts? And if so, how were you able to cope with being not only on camera right now, but with the recruiting process? So quick show of hands. Anyone introverted? Gina, you were a meh. Anybody else? I'll hear from Gina then, and we can go on to a couple of other questions before we conclude. Gina, so you gave a meh, so are you an extroverted introvert then?
So my background, I was in science before. I was actually in a lab, so I was one of the more extroverted people in the lab. But when I came to business school, I realized I'm very much more of an introvert. But I think one thing about these recruiting conversations that was nice to realize for me is that even though you do have an end goal of getting recruited by that company, you're asking questions for your benefit, and you also are just trying to get to know a person. So it's kind of like trying to make a friend, but having a little bit of guidance around the conversations like associated with the company that you're recruiting for. So honestly, a lot of my coffee chats, I had some specific questions about the companies, of course, but a lot of them became more about that person and their goals and how long they've been with the company, that sort of thing, rather than sticking to just straight recruiting based questions. So that helped me make it a little bit less stressful, knowing that I could talk on a more personal level rather than keeping it from becoming transactional, as you said.
Fairness, that's a great tip, and I'm sure those who watch this will find that to be very useful. Moving on to Shavik's second question, I can sum this up very quickly. What made you take your internship? Assuming there were multiple offers on the table or multiple opportunities, as Shavik has said, was it money? Was it life? Was it growth and opportunities? Was it potentially power? Was it that you just liked the name of the company and said, you know what, I like the name Ford, classic American name, let's run with it. So I want to hear from everybody on this. Marina, why don't we start with you? What was the determining factor in you taking your internship?
I think for me, it was joy. So I was looking for something that I would enjoy doing, because like internship is like 8 hours a day for 3 months. It's a lot of time. If I don't like what I'm doing, I won't be happy. So that was like my primary decision factor. But I also would say, like, at least at Haas, we have like this culture of taking risks. So I used the internship to kind of test a few things. So I know I had a background in consulting. I wanted to test how would be for me to transition to a medium large company that is not consulting, because consulting, I don't know how much you know about it, but like it's even the big companies, they are kind of small, so everything is super effective. We don't have like a bunch of process that makes everything slow. So I wanted to test it. I wanted to see how it is for me to be in a more tech is not very conservative, but like it's like a large company that has different areas working together. So this was something that I wanted to test. I didn't want to try my internship in a startup, but that was like my personal decision. So it was about what I wanted to learn about me in the work environment, thinking about the future. So if years after MBA, I decide to leave consulting, would I be happy in a large company? Would I be happy in a tech environment? So I use the internship to do this test because it's kind of risk-free environment. If you don't like your internship, it's fine. You can recruit again and do something else for full-time. But if you recruit for full-time for something that you're not sure, maybe you don't like, and after 3 months, it's weird for you to just transition again. So that was like my decision factor. That's how I made my decisions.
Which is well thought out. I think you had the answer that most, I guess, should give, which is joy. You'll know Shavik left joy and enjoyment off of his question. I won't read into that psychologically because I'm not a psychiatrist, although I like to pretend I am at times. So we won't read into the fact that Shavik forgot to put joy, but you chose, in my opinion, the absolutely correct rationale to choose an internship in a business. Andrew, what was your rationale? I want to have somebody step up and say, I did it for money, plain and simple. I'm greedy. I want it. It's all mine. I'm hoping one of you does that. If not, that's okay. But I can hope. A boy can dream.
You came to the wrong guy for that one. I left finance, which is historically associated with, yes, good compensation. But just one other variable, or two other variables that I thought about. One was we're all going to be close to 30 typically when you come out of an MBA or a little bit older, and where you want to put down roots and raise a family geographically plays a huge role. So for me, going to Detroit, cheaper cost of living than I'm used to in a suburb where I felt that I could afford it and give my kids the lifestyle I wanted was huge for me. So that was one. And then the second one was work-life balance. So it's really important to ask people when you're going through the process or try and gauge how hard they're working with the hours, or like how flexible the company is with various things. And Ford, for me, was the perfect fit, both in terms of people that understood, people who had been there, and then a place where I could really see myself long-term. And then the last thing I'll add is you do have to think about the job as maybe not the end-all, be-all. So I hope to be at Ford the rest of my life. But you also have to think, what if things weren't going to work out? And looking at that as a stepping stone or a name on your resume that's marketable was really important to me as well. So that's why I chose what I chose and couldn't be happier.
Well, I'm sure nobody from Ford is listening, so I hope you didn't say that just to come off good with them. By the way, Shavik chimed in. He said he thought that consulting was all about work-life balance. Shavik, we love you, buddy. Never change. Omri, coming to you. What was the decision point for you in choosing your internship? Money. Come on, say it, please.
Sorry, I'm gonna disappoint you here, but not money, definitely. Probably a combination of a lot of things that already been said, but I think one of the key things that I said was like experimenting during the summer. So I think it's just an amazing opportunity to try something that is like out of your comfort zone. I don't think there are a lot of opportunities in life to do that, at least not for me. I didn't have that before. So try something that's completely new. For me, product management was new. And I did like finance and VC before. So and I wanted to do something that I'm passionate about and like an industry that I like, that I can actually benefit from. So let's say product management in the future, but I can really gain from the knowledge I gained from the summer experience, and it could benefit me whether if I want to go back to finance or not. So that these are like the key things. Obviously, brand is very important, and like work-life balance and other things that you'll always need to keep in mind when choosing a place to work for.
Very fair. I can't fault you for being fair. All right. Last but not least, Miss Consultant herself. Come on, who wants to own the money one? I'm going to be honest. If I ever end up at business school and we're doing these internships, give me the big paycheck. I'll admit it. I'm greedy. But
I think bankers.
What about you, Gina?
Bankers on the panel before you get money as the answer. But so I think my biggest thing was growth. I was in a career where I had a very strict projection, and I needed to get a master's or a PhD to continue down that path. And I decided that that wasn't the life that I wanted. So I did make a big pivot by getting an MBA, and I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. I was working in a lab primarily beforehand, some other responsibilities, but no formal business experience or schooling. So I felt like consulting was the best way to get all of that experience kind of shoved into a very short amount of time, and also do the most that I could post MBA so I could figure out a bit more. I know there's kind of a joke about consultants are adults that still don't know what they want to do. So I still have a bit of figuring out to do, I think, in my long-term career. Who knows? I might stay in consulting. I'm not going to make a decision one way or another. I don't think I know that yet. But yeah, growth was my primary offer. I mean, I think money is always a factor when you're choosing an expensive degree like an MBA. But luckily, I think most jobs that come out of an MBA are fairly well paid. So when it comes to decisions around which type of career to choose, it's not as big of a factor as you might think.
Again, very fair. And we finally got a little bit of money talk, just a little bit, which is good. I think a lot of our viewers want to get big paychecks. Your interviewer, something about me being an interviewing person here wants his paycheck too. With that said, Yashka, you who is a forum moderator with us, I want to post your question, but I'm not sure what you meant. So you asked, did you know exactly what career you wanted after B school when you applied? Did it change during the course? Do you mean when they were applying to internships, or when they were applying to B school in general? So if you clarify that, I'd be more than happy to clarify that. But I want to finish up Shavik's last question, and then we can move on to a few others before we hit our hour mark, which is another fantastic question because Shavik is just awesome in general. How would you do recruiting differently knowing what you know now? So the very classic, you could go back in time a year or two and tell yourself one thing. If I could go back in time 7 years, I'd tell myself invest in Bitcoin. So with that said, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of this process? Omri, why don't you lead us off this time?
Two main things. First is it's not the end of the world to get a rejection. That's the first thing. Recruiting is tough. It's a very competitive process. So that's like the first thing. The second thing is that you should be very focused. It's hard because there are a lot of opportunities and you talk to a lot of people. It's like, hey, have you heard of that guy and this opening and blah, blah. And you see in the career center, a lot of, if you plan and think about what you really want, or like the range of things that you want, and keep it focused as possible, I think it'll be easier. And I wish I've done it more.
Very nice. Andrew, how about you? If you could go back in time and let yourself know a couple of things, what would they be?
Yeah, business school people are competitive. All of us here that got to this place are competitive with one another. So you see someone else doing something on a different timeline that's maybe faster than yours, already has an offer. You get kind of jealous from that competitiveness. And I wish that I had been able to stick to my timeline and stick to my guns a little better, because it works out for almost everybody eventually. It's tough when somebody already has an internship in November and you're like, I don't have interviews. So I wish that I had been more patient and understood the timeline better, rather than just getting on myself and getting down when I had no reason to.
Again, a very fair statement, but also I think the least surprising statement of this call, which is that people are competitive. Especially at Darden. I mean, that's one of the best schools in the country, if not the world. So, I mean, kudos. Let's see. Who do I want to call on next? Let's go with Gina. Gina, if you go back in time, what are you telling yourself?
I think the thing I would do differently is actually expand my scope a little bit. I was very dead set on what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do getting in, and I purely focused on that, and it happened to work out. But I think it could have very easily not have. I think there's a lot of luck that plays into the recruiting process with just it's just that type of world. And so I wish I had expanded my scope a little bit more, maybe looked at different companies and networked a little bit differently or a little bit more expansively. But it did work out for me. I just try not to say like focus only on your like top 3 companies and just go for that, because I don't think that's always the best path to take. But also, on the other end, don't expand your scope completely and try and recruit for everything. So there is a middle ground to take.
There's a middle ground to how much networking you want to do. Coming back to sort of your first point that you made when we first kicked off this chat. Circle of life never ceases to amaze. Marina, and how about you? What would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, I was initially thinking about like focus. I think like having focus is key. If you decide to apply to everything, you won't have time and I don't know, you won't feel good doing so many applications. But what Gina just said, I think that's the key. Like you have to find the right balance, because like, you're gonna see people applying to all types of careers. And when they talk about it seems very exciting, but you don't have the time to network with all industries, with all types of roles, and you probably won't like to work in all types of jobs. So having focus, understanding yourself is important, but also like, as Gina mentioned, try to be a little bit broad, try to explore a little bit. I think it's key. So in my case, I like to focus at the beginning. At some point, I really was, I don't know, I really knew what I want to do, and then I focused more and everything worked out. But at first, I was kind of messy, like all around, wanting to apply to everything. So that's it from my side.
So again, all of you touched on the fact that you need to expand, but you need to find what you sort of want to do. And going back a little bit to the last question of, well, what makes you tick, so to speak? But it sounds like it's almost touch and go, where you're trying to see how far you can expand your bubble before it pops, before you go and overextend yourself. Would everyone here agree that that's an accurate characterization, or have I completely missed the mark yet again? I'm seeing some heads shaking yes, so I'll go with it and take my victory. So I mentioned Yashika did post a question. Again, she is a moderator, so I do want to get her question in here. Did any of you know exactly what you want to do I'm sorry, did you know exactly what career you wanted after B school when you applied, and did it change during the course? This isn't necessarily MBA recruiting, but I think it is important given we have 4 panelists, 2 of whom are, at least 2, or maybe even a third, are career changers. So what was this experience like for you guys? And did you have that preset mindset of, I'm changing from point A to point B, and this is exactly where I want to go? Or was there some ambiguity and some gray area? Gina, I know you're a career switcher. Let's hear from you on this.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to get into consulting. I didn't necessarily know what type of consulting. Coming from a healthcare background, I was most interested in healthcare consulting and kind of meandered between that and a generalist role. But other than that, I stayed the course with consulting. So I am kind of one of those boring answers of nope, kind of knew what I wanted to do getting in, and ended up staying on that path.
Andrew, Omri, I know at least one of you is a career switcher. Are both of you career switchers? Yes. Yep. All right. So then, Omri, I'll go to you, and Andrew, I'll come back to you. Given you are a career switcher, same thing as Gina, were you new, or were you going in sort of blind?
Yeah. Just a reminder, I'm just during like I completed my first year, so I can't say about post MBA, but I can say that I knew that I'm gonna do that something different in the summer, and I'm gonna deliberately look for that, like for operating experience. So I didn't know exactly what or where. So that's kind of the process that I made throughout the year, talking to people and getting more exposure to new industries and ideas. But generally, I knew that I want to do like product management or like work for a tech company.
Wonderful. Andrew, give me 1 minute on whether you knew going in what you want to do or not.
Like Omri, first year, had a vague idea, but I think that even the people who were 100% sure what they wanted to do, a lot of them switched it up throughout the first year as well as they were exposed to more opportunities. So even the people that thought 100% what they wanted to do, which wasn't me, a lot of them didn't end up there. So just being open to the possibilities was really, really helpful, I think, for everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. To our GMAT club owner, I think that's BB who posted that. I was actually sure how long we're supposed to go, so I think we may have blown through our allotted time. That's okay. This was a good session. All four of you are fantastic people. I loved hearing from you. Our viewers got a lot out of this. I know I did. So thank you all so much for joining us here. Please continue to watch for our MBA Fair, our MBA Spotlight. And yes, thank you, Yashika. And please continue to hopefully learn from GMAT Club. That's why we're doing this. To our panelists, best of luck with your future careers. And we hope to hear from you sometime soon about how everything worked out. But take care for now, guys. Thank you so much.